Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In today's video, we're going to be discussing Salazar Slytherin, Godric Gryffindor, Rowena Ravenclaw, Helga Hufflepuff, and Hogwarts. More specifically, we're going to be discussing the founding of Hogwarts, as well as what led to Salazar Slytherin, the founder of Slytherin House, vacating the school. Hogwarts was founded when 4 10th century witches and wizards got together and decided that they had, in the Sorting Hat's own words, the selfsame yearning to make the world's best magic school. Thus, Hogwarts was born. The school itself was built hidden off somewhere in the Scottish Highlands. The exact location is never actually revealed, and this was because the 10th century was a time of hardship for witches and wizards. During this time, every day, witches and wizards were being persecuted by muggles, who were intensely hostile when it came to witnessing sources of magic. In order to further protect the staff, students, and school itself, additional precautions were made in the form of charms, helping to further conceal the school from muggle trespassers. After the founders, who were close friends I should add, founded the school, they decided that they would each create and head their own house, which would represent a personality trait and skill that they wanted to nurture. And it just so happened that, despite being close friends, each founder happened to value very different things, which created quite an interesting and diverse array of students at the school. Gryffindor students embodied bravery and chivalry, Ravenclaw, intelligence and wit, Hufflepuff, loyalty and fair play, and Slytherin, the values of being sly and cunning. For years, the Hogwarts founders served as head of their respective houses and sorted students into their houses manually. However, it eventually occurred to them that they wouldn't be around forever, and so the Sorting Hat was born. The creation of the Sorting Hat certainly made the lives of the founders much easier, but it also couldn't have come at a better time, for you see, Gryffindor and Salazar began to have a falling out. We know that after their falling out, Salazar ends up leaving the school, but what happened exactly? In Chapter 11 of the Order of the Phoenix, the Sorting Hat gives us a few more details. And never did they dream that they might someday be divided. For were there such friends anywhere as Slytherin and Gryffindor? Unless it was the second pair of Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw. So how could it have gone so wrong? How could such friendships fail? Why, I was there and so can tell the whole sad, sorry tale. All that the Sorting Hat seems to introduce in this first segment is that A. Slytherin and Gryffindor were previously the closest of friends, were there such friends anywhere, and B. that something caused the friendship to go wrong, to fail. Let's continue. So Hogwarts worked in harmony for several happy years, but then discord crept among us, feeding on our faults and fears. The houses that, like Pillars 4, had once held up our school, now turned upon each other and, divided, sought to rule. And for a while it seemed the school must meet an early end, what with dueling and with fighting, and the clash of friend on friend. And at last there came a morning when old Slytherin departed, and though the fighting then died out, he left us quite downhearted. This second segment speaks of a short-lived but harmonious time, when friendships were intact and things flowed seamlessly. However, the Hat then goes on to divulge information about growing tensions regarding the 4 houses, and the walls that went up between these houses. It seems to suggest that, when the relationships of the founders became more tumultuous, a bigger and bigger divide was placed between the 4 houses, which resulted in a battle for control. The Hat then alludes to fighting and dueling between friends, and, eventually, the departure of Slytherin. From the context that the Hat has given us, it seems as though the departure of Slytherin stopped the fighting, but certainly didn't raise spirits. I think that what it ultimately comes down to is their perspective on muggles. Like I mentioned in the beginning, during this time period, the tension between muggles and wizard kind was immense. Dumbledore comments on this in his copy of The Wizard and the Hopping Pot, a short story written by Beedle the Bard that focuses on wizarding muggle relations. As the witch hunts grew ever fiercer, wizarding families began to live double lives, using charms of concealment to protect themselves and their families. By the 17th century, any witch or wizard who chose to fraternize with muggles became suspect, even an outcast in his or her own community. What this tells us is that, preceding the 17th century, the world was very much wide open. The presence of witches and wizards was well known to muggles, and did muggles welcome them into their society? No, they hunted them down, and this is what effectively coined the term witch hunt. They didn't praise them for their magical ability and welcome them with open arms. They hunted them down because they were different, because they were freaks. It wasn't until 1707, when the Ministry of Magic was first founded, that the two worlds were finally separated. It's no secret that Slytherin didn't like muggles or muggle-borns. After all, it was him that created the Basilisk and the Chamber of Secrets. I think that this is where he strongly disagreed with his co-founders. Godric, Helga, and Rowena were all more progressive in their thinking, being more welcoming of muggles in order to expedite the assimilation of the two worlds. However, Salazar, who saw what muggles did to his people, took the opposite approach and instead vowed to eliminate them. Witches and wizards were hunted down and burned by muggles for being freaks, and though Salazar's course of action wasn't appropriate, you can probably at least sort of see where he was coming from. Salazar Slytherin, born right into this era of oppression, sometime before 976 AD, was birthed into a world full of hate and conflict. Right from childhood, he would have been thrown right into the mix, into witch hunts and hiding, fearing for his life. And so, for this reason, it's not surprising that Slytherin went down in the history books as a strong proponent for having only pure-blood students at the school. His legacy was ultimately passed on to the other Slytherins of the school, who adopted this same attitude, which isn't surprising given how the Sorting Hat works. Where Slytherin chose vengeance, the other founders chose a moral high ground. They were the bigger people. Likely because of how muggles had treated wizardkind, he fundamentally felt that muggle-borns were unworthy of studying magic, something which Gryffindor founder Godric Gryffindor strongly opposed. A differing stance on how to deal with the oppression of your people is certainly a divisive topic, and I believe that it's ultimately what led to Salazar leaving the school for good. I think that, deep down, Salazar and Godric were still good friends. They just couldn't find mutual ground on this extremely important topic. I think that one thing that was perpetuated, however, was the emphasis placed on respecting that each world was very different. For as long as we've known, Hogwarts, which is the primary introduction to the wizarding world for muggle-borns, seems to place a huge emphasis on the importance of the divide between the two worlds. And I think that this is for good reason. They're taught very early on that they are two completely different places and need to be treated as such. You can't bring muggle values into the wizarding world in the same way that you can't bring wizarding values into the muggle world. What do you guys think? Did you know about all of this? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live.